to ask any questions of our speaker. We have Bon here. My name is, sorry, I'm just, it's evening. I'm like forgetting all what I'm supposed to do. I want to welcome you all, and thank you, Bon, for joining the live Q&A session and for recording the presentation for the conference platform. My name is Athia Chaudhary, and I'm the Senior Program Manager on the Health System Transformation Team. I'm joined by my amazing colleague, Linda Persawati. She is my co-pilot and co-facilitator for our question and answer session. So it looks like we have one more AMCHP joining us. Ashley, welcome. And so really this is an opportunity for those who are joining as participants to ask questions, provide any comment, feedback. So I'll just double check again. Nothing in the questions tab in the conference platform. So if folks want to unmute themselves here and or type in a question in the chat box, we welcome that.
So it does look like we have one question in the chat from Rebecca. So Bon, could you talk a little bit more about the curriculum that was used and more details about the health coaching session topics and discussions with the participants?
Yeah, so one, thank you, Atia and Linda, for letting me be here to do this live Q&A. Thanks to Rebecca and Ashley for coming. And thanks to Rebecca for your question. So this question, I feel like it's going to take a long time to answer just because the curriculum is something that we had to develop. And we had to develop actually 3 different curriculums. So the curriculum that we developed, if you saw the presentation, you saw that there were 3 groups that we had. We had the intervention group, which we named as the ocean group. And then we had the mountain group, which includes both the control group and also the comparison group. So in each of those groups, because Embrace is focused on Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander women, the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander women were randomized into either the control or the case or intervention group. And those were the ocean and mountain groups, and all other women from other racial and ethnic identities, including Black, African American, refugee, and New American, and Hispanic and Latina women were all put into the mountain group too. And both the control mountain group and the comparison mountain group received the same curriculum, whereas the ocean group or the intervention group received a culturally tailored curriculum. And so creating the curriculums for the mountain group was, I feel like a lot of involvement, a lot of team members had to be involved. So we had the nutrition portion from the registered dietitians, and also the perinatal health that came from the perinatal health education that came from the OBGYN that we are working with and their research assistant. And then also we had the self-care portion, which we have our mental health specialist at the Office of Health Equity who helped to develop all of that. And really was all of us just collaborating together and putting together all of that into the curriculum. And then for the ocean group curriculum, that one was more tailored towards Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander culture and traditions. So in that individual health coaching session curriculum, it includes more grounding in Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander. So the nutrition was more tailored for Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander culture and what they regularly eat, normalizing that, you know, like our cultural foods are also healthy and that we can also include them. We don't have to be eating like typical foods that we see, like kale and like, I don't know, hummus. I don't know. I feel like hummus is like suddenly like appropriated now and its origins are different, but that's aside the point. But yeah, including those things. And then we have in the self-care portion of the individual health coaching sessions for the ocean group is also more tailored and grounded in Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander culture. So more like grounding in community, talking about ancestral practice, including ancestors and the future generation in that self-care too. And so that was the individual health coaching session curriculum that we had developed. And then for the group health coaching session curriculum, we did this only for the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander women who were randomized into the ocean group, who are the intervention group. And this is all, there are 2 individual or group health coaching sessions that are just basically immersed in Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander culture and traditions and values and heritage. And this was created with our cultural advisor, Nia Latu. And she really just, the way that the group health coaching sessions were developed was that she would go and like do a bunch of research and then come back to us and share what she learned, and we would have discussions on it. And from there, we created and just wrote out, Brittany and I mainly created and wrote out the group health coaching sessions and included all of the cultural components that Nia shared with us and made sure that Nia reviewed it and it was okay with her. If she didn't love it, we would like delete it and erase it. And then we also had our cultural facilitator, Tima, who is from the Utah Pacific Islander Health Coalition, who facilitated both of the group health coaching sessions with the women. And we went through it with her too, and whatever she didn't like, we would remove and made sure that it was up to par for both of them, that they really liked those. So that was a very long answer about the individual health coaching sessions topics and discussions, but yeah, those were also really rooted in self-care. We included for the first group health coaching session, we had the We Are the Ocean affirmation activity where a woman wrote down their affirmations and said them all together in a chant. And then the second group health coaching session, we did the Mana meditation activity, which was part of the presentation, if you were able to see that. Yeah.
Thank you, Vaughn. That was that great answer, and just really want to underscore the point about, you know, the cultural foods and appreciating that and understanding that there's so much, you know, I think it's hard to quantify the nutritional value of our cultural foods because it doesn't fit in these Western standards. So I really appreciate that comments. And welcome to our other participants. I welcome you to chat in any question or unmute yourself. You can feel free to unmute yourself and ask one.
This is Sharon, and I'm from Iowa, and we've started a project that we're working with we've got like areas that have small, you know, most of Iowa is small, but populations from the Marshall Islands, and we've hired a family navigator, Adna, who's working with, and we're working with the families in teaching advocacy skills. And some of the I mean, I'm very interested in some of the, you know, like your data and the things that you pulled, you know, things like that. But the other thing, how were you able to retain? How was your retention? I mean, because we're moving around the state to different areas, but yet we want to continue to engage the families. And I'm just wondering, did you have any trouble with retention, or everybody continued from beginning to end, or how did it?
Yeah, that is such a good question, Sharon. Thanks for asking that. So for retention, we really worked closely with the community health workers from the community-based organizations. They were really key in all of this. Like they were the ones who were recruiting the woman. They enrolled the woman into the study, and we have multiple touch points, and which are just like checkpoints for all of the women to, for the community health workers to contact the woman. So like they would send them reminders for their biometric screenings or their individual health coaching sessions, and they were the ones who were scheduling them. And so I feel like because the community health workers also, they have so much built trust with their communities already. They knew most of the women, and if they didn't know them throughout the study, they got to know them and became really close friends with all of them because they themselves are community members. But I feel like that question is so hard to answer because during the pandemic, like we lost quite a few participants along the way, like compared to baseline to like the 6-month screening and the 9-month screening, and the study is still ongoing. We're not going to be done. We will be completed around fall 2022. So we'll have like final numbers by then, but we have lost a few people too, and there has been attrition due to either COVID or like just lost a follow-up, or they can't, like their lives are so busy just because of all of the roles and responsibilities that the women hold within their communities and within their families. It's really hard for them to like do everything they're doing and then like have this study on top of it. It becomes too much, which is sad because that's like the reason why they should be part of the study, to focus on themselves. But I feel like that's kind of been a difficulty with the study, but I feel like the key that has helped us the most with having women be retained in the study is really the community health worker connection.
And so we're probably just there starting that piece. So I mean, hopefully in 5 or 10 years we'll have, I know, I mean, we're just beginning, but yeah.
Yes.
And then my other question was, you had really good response from your red cap. If you emailed it to the participants or texted it to them, they responded really well.
Yeah. So we had like, the way we set up our red cap system was like automatic. Like once like the community health worker like followed up with them, it would automatically send the surveys to them. But there was a little bit of trouble with that too. Sometimes like a lot of the messages would go directly to their spam folder, so they wouldn't see it. And then other times due to internet connection, it wouldn't like submit the survey. So we had to resubmit and like go through that process again. And so that was, I feel like for the most part, having it through RedCap, like the surveys going out to them, it worked pretty well for the research study. But yeah, it would have been nice to be able to text it to them. I will say that.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. There is a question in the chat. Can you talk a little more about where you are with your sustainability plan? We have a Well Woman program here in Alabama and several of our counties that we are working to strengthen and hopefully continue to expand. I am new to working with our Well Woman program, but there are a lot of similarities.
Yeah, that is such a good question and really timely because that's what we're working on right now. That's like my main project is the sustainability plan. So right now, I guess like to give context to the sustainability plan. So we use the program sustainability assessment tool to really guide our sustainability plan, and using the 8 domains of the program sustainability assessment tool to see which parts of Embrace fit and where. And it also lets you take a group like survey to see where everyone is at or what their opinions are, and then it gives an average of where everyone of everyone's responses, and shows you the portions that you could really work on. So for ours, it was like specifically funding stability and also communication. So those were the two main domains that we are working on. However, we're working on all of the domains. So just recently, yesterday, we went through an inventory of all of the activities in our, yes, thank you so much, Linda, for putting that in the chat. Yesterday, we went through an inventory of all of our activities that we do and Embrace to see what we can sustain, what we can adapt for the future, and what we will no longer be able to continue due to the limitations of it being a research study. And so we went through all of that with the principal investigators and the registered dietitians, and all of the folks in our Embrace team, including like the wellness bus manager, and then Brittany and I. So we went through all of that together, had multiple discussions about what would be best for each portion or component of the Embrace study. And so we just finished that yesterday. Sorry, I feel like I'm not giving you a good answer. If you want to put your email, I can give you a much better answer, like better details later on. But yeah, so that's where we're at right now. And now we're rewriting the sustainability plan to include all of those components into it and really focus on the things that we can achieve, the things that will adapt and be able to continue, what we'll be able to sustain, and then also what will no longer be able to continue. I hope that answered your question.
It did. And Rebecca has shared her email if you want to connect afterwards.
Hi, Ben. This is Brendan. I'm from Hawaii. I wanted to ask you a question because I was interested in this because of our Native Hawaiian, Polynesian, Micronesian that we have. Do you guys run in the situation with a language barrier with the Tongans and the Samoans in Utah?
In Utah, there is, I know that the Office of Health Disparities before they have done, sorry, I feel like I'm not giving you a good answer right now, but they did a like survey, I believe, of like just, I think it was a phone survey or probably phone and written survey to see like where health disparities are, and they had been doing it in English before, but then they had expanded it to include Tongan and Samoan. And when they did that, they had more reach. And I can link those, I can find those reports because they're published on our website, I believe. If you want to leave your email in the chat, I can send those to you and share those with you. But for the research study portion, one of our criteria to be able to be part of Embrace and join Embrace was that you had to know English well. So we didn't have that problem or didn't have that kind of situation arise throughout the research study.
So if they didn't reach that criteria where they needed to have pretty well in English, what happens with that population?
So that's a really good question. We mainly worked with the community health workers from the community-based organization. So we worked with community health workers from the Utah Pacific Islander Health Coalition and the National Tongan American Society, both in Utah, to recruit women that they knew and put it all out there. And then from there, the woman would contact the community health workers to ask them questions about the study and everything. So I think at that point, it was kind of like the women who were interested in joining the study and ready to join the study and could do the study, like had the capacity to be able to do it. They were the ones who reached out to the community health workers. But as far as like other women, that's a really good question that I'm going to take back to Brittany because she is one of the principal investigators on the study, and ask her about that.
Okay, so where I was trying to get at, I know Sharon, you mentioned it about the Micronesians. So we have a huge Micronesian population in Hawaii, and they speak, I think, like 5 different dialects. So do you guys are running into that same problem in Utah where you can't really reach out to this Micronesian community because of the they don't speak English, they only speak their certain dialect?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to it. I feel like I wish Brittany were here because I feel like she would know more because she's been working with the community for like 7 years. So I will ask her about that and get back to you. Is that okay? Okay.
And when we started our work, we were really nervous about that, Brandon, in Iowa. But so far, but I mean, I'm guessing there are those we're maybe not reaching out to. But the largest group in Dubuque, I think there's like 900. I want to say the majority speak Marshallese and then some English. So, and the family navigator that we've hired, so we're working on family advocacy with them, you know, for the families with children with special health care needs, but we're really trying to embrace the entire community and make connections with them. But I would say a large percentage of them speak English. When we start talking, we're trying to help them to advocate like at their doctor's appointments and things. And I'm not sure, we're still encouraging them to have a translator just because we're afraid that maybe they're not fully understanding the diagnosis or the recommendations, does that sound, yeah.
Thank you, Sharon and Brandon, and for your questions, and Rebecca for your questions. I think we have just one more minute, and in this last 60 seconds, if there's any more comments or questions, we can take those.
I would just like to thank Bon and Brittany for sharing. I mean, it's amazing. I was so excited to see both last night's and the presentation in this one because I'm excited. And so I'm going to keep your contact information. So I'll probably reach out again.
Great.
Thanks, Sharon.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I'm going to thank Bon and Brittany as well for the excellent presentation, and for Bon, thank you so much for joining the live Q&A. I'm so happy that we did have participants and that we had a rich discussion. And Bon, will you grab Rebecca and Brandon and those emails, or do you want me to? Okay, you got them? Okay, perfect. All right, so Bon will be in touch with you all. And thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Take care.